Hey guys, I hope that I'm live right now. If you guys are able to listen to me properly as well as there's no issues with the audio or the video, please do let me know. Good evening, everyone. I hope that I'm live right now. If you guys are able to listen to me properly as well as there's no issues with the audio or the video, please do let me know, guys. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Okay, so everything is clear. That's great. So yesterday, a lot many number of students had some issues with the attendance. The major issue was that they was not attending the classes on time. So guys, you will have to attend the classes on time, regularly, live. Watch the entire thing from the start to end so that you are able to get the attendance. Okay, there's no other way that you are going to get it. Okay. Okay. How are you guys? Guys, are you all fine? Please let me know. How are you guys? Are you guys all fine? Please do let me know. In the meanwhile, I will just open up the live chat on my mobile phone so that I'm able to see your chats as well. Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay. Okay. So in today's class, let me just check first of all the customizations, subscribers, any durations, low modes, save. Okay. So in today's class, we are going to continue with C++. Can somebody remind me what we have studied yesterday? Can somebody remind me what we have studied yesterday? Please let me know, guys. Can somebody remind me what we have studied yesterday? Please let me know. Can somebody let me know, guys, what we have studied yesterday? I'm also fine, guys. Thank you so much. We have completed HTML, okay? The basics of HTML that we have studied yesterday. HTML tags, okay? So we have studied about uh, hyperlink, okay? Great. We studied about HTML mockups, parent sibling concepts, great. UL, OL, button, okay? Amazing, guys. Amazing. Lists, great. So we have learned the basics of HTML yesterday. From today onwards, we are going to start off with CSS, okay, or cascading style sheets. That will be the aim of our today's class. Okay, today and tomorrow we'll be diving deep into CSS so that we are able to understand most of the concepts that we are going to use in CSS, as well as then after day after tomorrow we'll be starting off with Bootstrap CSS. So that will be our aim, guys. Okay. Great. So let me just open up the PPT up till that point of time, guys. Give me a second. Check if I'm using the correct PPT. Yeah. So we'll be starting in 2 minutes up till that point of time. If you guys have any questions or any queries, please do let me know. That will be point of time, guys. If you have any questions or queries, please do let me know and give me a second. I'm just blacking out my display. As you are able to see, you will be able to see me properly. There's no issues. I'm just blacking out my behind the screen for a few minutes. Okay, up to that point of time, guys, if you guys have any questions or any queries, please do let me know. If you guys have any questions or any queries, please do let me know, guys. If you guys have any questions or any queries, please do let me know. My friend doesn't register for the front-end bootcamp, but has attended all the classes till now and has also submitted the attendance. He did get the certificate without registration. For the first comers who are coming up to the boot camps the very first time, we pardon them if even if they have not attended, even if they are not registered, but they have the full attendance, we'll give them the certificates. But if he's doing this for the next boot camp, it won't be the case. You have to register for getting the certificates as well. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so let me just leave my screen as well. Okay, great. So let's start with our CSS. Guys, should we start off with CSS? Please let me know. Guys, should we start off with CSS? Please let me know, guys. Just a second. We start off with our class, guys. Please do let me know. No, JavaScript is not there in this program. Like I said, it is going to start off with HTML, which we have covered, then CSS that we are going to do right now, then Bootstrap. Okay. Guys, should we start? Please let me know, guys. Great, amazing. So let's start off with our today's class right now. Okay. So let us just open up code sandbox that we have been using up till now. So let me just open that up. It will take me a second. We'll be using the static responses that we were using. So this is the static code sandbox that we have been using up till now, and we will be continuing our learning process of CSS in this particular code sandbox itself. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the next particular point. Okay, let's open up the PPT that we need to use. Close everything up. Okay, so this is a basic block of CSS code that we need to understand. Okay, this is a basic block of CSS code. As you're able to see, this entire block of code is called as a rule set. So what happens is in CSS, what you do is you are having an HTML file. In the HTML file, you're having a lot of different tags. Okay, we have learned about tags in HTML. Okay, so you are having a lot of tags in HTML as well. So what you do in CSS is you take up a particular tag. You select a tag, and you apply some changes, apply some beautification over that particular tag. And these beautifications applied on a particular tag is called as a rule set. Okay, you need to remember these technical terms. Okay, you need to learn these technical terms. So for example, right over here, you're having a div tag. Okay, there's a div tag right over there. Okay, you are having a div tag inside your HTML file itself. Now you will be selecting that div tag. And then applying a particular change, applying a particular style to that particular tag itself. And this entire thing is called as a rule set. Okay, this entire thing is called as a rule set. Right over here, this rule set, this is an example of a rule set. The div tag, that is the tag that I want to apply my style changes to. The tag that I want to apply my style changes to is the selector tag. Okay, the tag that I want to apply my style changes to is called as the selector tag. Okay, now this changes that I want to apply, the styles that I want to apply to that particular tag, that is called as the declaration block, where you are declaring the styles that you want to apply to that particular selector, and the entire thing together is called as a rule set. Okay, the entire thing is called as a rule set right over here. Are you guys able to understand this layout of the code? You don't need to understand how this code is running or something like that. We will be looking at that after a few minutes. Okay, but we need to understand the components of a CSS code. We need to understand the three components of a CSS code: the selector, the declaration block, and together they are called as a rule set. Okay, the selector, that is which tag do you want to select from the HTML site to basically apply the changes to the changes that you want to apply, that is the declaration block, and together it is called as a rule set. Are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know. Are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know, guys. You don't need to get it, okay? You just need to understand these are the three components of a CSS code. We will be getting it at a later point of time, how this is working, what is the meaning, all those kind of stuff. Just think about it as three different squares. The first square is the selector tag that basically selects the HTML tag. The second square is the declaration block that basically declares the changes that you want to apply, the styles, maybe the color change, maybe the size change, maybe the height change to the selector tag, and both of them together is called as a rule set. Both of them together is called as a rule set. This is basically, I'm telling you guys, these are the technical terms that you need to know. We will be understanding how these work at a later point of time, but these technical terms, selector, rule set, and declaration block, you should be knowing that. Okay, so let's take up a particular example. Okay, let's take up a small example right over here. Let us close this up. Let us increase the size. Let's remove everything. Okay, let's just have an h1 tag on our screen. Okay, so we will just remove everything. We'll just have an h1 tag on our screen right over here. Let's save this and let's open up the website in a new browser. Those who haven't been able to understand it, no issues, guys. Please be patient. You will be able to understand it. Okay, don't worry about it. Okay, so right over here we are having this website, that is, you are having the h1 tag. Okay, so list of highest paid jobs in 2022. We are having our h1 tag right over here. So don't worry, I will repeat it. Okay, just wait for a second. Okay, wait for a second, listen to me carefully. You will be able to understand it. Just wait and listen to me carefully. Okay, so right now what we want to do is so just forget what we have learned up till now in CSS. Okay, we will start from scratch, because I'm able to understand many of you are not joining us on time, and of course you will not be able to understand if you're not joining us on time. Okay, so no worries, I will tell you guys that again. So let us first start it out right over here. Okay, so this is the h1 tag right over here. Okay, as you're able to see, this is the h1 tag. Now my aim is to change the color of this particular h1 tag from black to, let's say, blue. I want to change the color of this tag from black to blue. So the first thing, the first way of putting up the style, okay, the first way of changing the style right over here of this h1 tag is to use an inline CSS. Now, what is the inline CSS? Okay, so right over here in the h1 tag as an attribute, okay, you will be writing. So we have learned about attributes in HTML. We have learned about attributes in HTML. So if you want to put up a particular change, an aesthetic change, a change, so I want to change the color, the background color, the color of the text from black to blue. So I want to do a CSS property change. Okay, I can do that right over here as an attribute. So I will change the style attribute of this particular h1 tag. I'll change the style attribute of this particular h1 tag to color blue. I will change the color to blue. Okay, right over here. Okay. So right over here, as you are able to see, we are having the h1 tag style is equals to color blue. Okay, so what I've done right now is I'm creating an attribute. I'm creating a style attribute with the h1 tag that is basically telling it to change the color of the element, that is the color of the text of the element, to blue. Okay, so we'll understand the code. Let us first run this and look at the website right now. As you're able to see, the color of the text has changed from black to blue right over here. So let us try to understand the code. Okay, let us try to understand the code right now. Okay, let us try to understand the code right now. So what I've written right over there is I'm having the h1 element. Okay, I'm having the h1 element right over here. H1. I'm having the style attribute. Okay, style style attribute. That is basically I'm writing it in quotation marks. Okay, I have to write color. That is the property that I want to change. Color. What is the property that I want to change? That is the color property. Then I want to have semicolon right over colon right over here. Then the color that I want to change it to. So I want to change it to blue. Writing blue right over here. Then I have to like close this particular line of code. So this is basically color blue. I'm closing it using a semicolon at the end. Again putting up quotation marks. Okay, again putting up quotation marks. This is the style change. This is the CSS code that we have. This is the CSS code that we have right over here. Okay, and then I have to close the h1 element. Okay, then whatever text that I'm having, and then the h1, the closing tag right over here. Okay, so this type of CSS is called as inline CSS. This is called as inline CSS, where you are writing the CSS inside your HTML itself. Inside the HTML tag itself, you're inline. In the line itself, you're putting up as an attribute the CSS property associated with that particular element. Okay, now this type of CSS, this type of inline CSS is usually told not to do. Okay, this is a particular thing that when you are going into production, when you're building a particular website, you will be told time and time again that you should never use inline CSS unless it is absolutely essential. It is a question in your exam. Only then you have to use inline CSS, otherwise not. Okay, otherwise not. Okay, so right over here, this is the property that I want to change. Okay, so this is called as inline CSS. So I can just select any type of so this is the attendance link for today, guys. Okay, I have to select any type of, I will be showing the attendance link again, don't worry about it. Okay, so I just showed it by mistake, no issues. So right over here, as you are able to see, okay, as you are able to see from right over here, you are having the inline CSS right over here. Now, this is something that you would be told not to use at any point of time. The reason for that, I will be letting you guys know at a later point of time. Okay, not right now, and we'll be reaching external CSS, that point of time itself, not right now. Okay, so right now, this is all as inline CSS, that is what you want to know. Now the second type of CSS that you can use, okay, the second type of CSS that you can use as of this particular moment is the internal CSS. Okay, the second type of CSS that you can use is the internal CSS, guys. Okay, the internal CSS that you have to use is you put up, okay, the internal CSS is put up inside of head. Okay, inside of head you will be creating a tag called as style. Okay, you'll be creating a tag called as style right over here. Guys, you will be creating a tag. So guys, how many of you are able to understand the inline CSS? Please let me know. How many of you are able to understand the inline CSS, guys? Please let me know. Don't write present sir. I'm telling you guys, don't write present sir. Tell me how many of you are able to understand inline CSS. Please let me know. Don't write present sir, guys. Don't write it down. How many of you are able to understand inline CSS? We will be telling you guys why not to use inline CSS. Now that is a convention, but I will be letting you guys know why you should not be using inline CSS. Okay, are you guys able to understand inline CSS? Please let me know, guys. Okay, great. This is the next type of CSS that you can use is basically your internal CSS. So right over there, using internal CSS, basically instead of writing it inside the line that, okay, you want to change this particular h1 tag right over here. So we'll be removing this from here, again saving this, going back to our website. As you're able to see, now it's again in black in color. Okay, as you're able to see, we want it as h1. Okay, as you're able to see, this is again black in color. You are having the big bold black text, the h1. We don't have any type of CSS on our website right now. Now, the second way in which you can put up CSS on your website is using this style tag. Okay, you can use this style tag right over here. So this style tag basically goes inside your head tag itself, because again, this is a metadata. Your styling, okay, the styling that you want to apply to a particular website is a metadata that you aren't going to see on your website. It's just the style that you are able to apply to the website itself. So again, it's a metadata. We've learned about metadata on the first day itself. Okay, so right over here, you are having the style tags. And what you want to do right over here is you want to write your CSS code inside this style tag. Okay, the selector that you want to select, so the tag that you want to select is the h1 tag. Okay, first of all, the tag that you want to select is the h1 tag. Now inside that h1 tag, you want to make a change. Okay, you want to make a change. So the change that you want to do is color as blue. You want to set up the color as blue right over here. So it's as simple as what we have seen in the example in the PPT that we have seen. You are having this style tag. This is called as inline, this is called as internal CSS. Why internal? Because it is in the same page as the HTML page itself. It's inside the HTML. Your CSS code is inside the HTML file itself, but it's not in the same line. It's not in the same line. So you're able to put your entire style inside this style tags. You're able to put the entire style, whatever CSS that you want to write, inside this style tag right over here. Okay, so you're able to see you are having the h1 tag that you want to select. Okay, that is the h1 tag. You want to select that. That is the selector. Then you are having the color blue. Okay, that is the change that you want to apply. Okay, so that is basically your declaration block. As you're able to see, that is basically your declaration block right over there. You're able to put up your declaration block right over here. So it is the h1 tag that you want to select, and then the declaration block here itself, and then this entire thing is called as a rule set. This entire thing is called as a rule set. Okay, now maybe you are having a h3 tag as well. Let's say you are having an h3 tag right over here. This is a h3 tag, and you want to change, you want to apply another rule set. Okay, so every selector will have its own rule set. Okay, so right now I want to apply another rule set to the h3 tag. So right now let's check how this looks like on our screen. So as you're able to see, we are having an h3 tag that is normal h3 tag that is black in color. Okay, and then you are having the blue tag, the h1 blue tag right over here as well. Now what I want to do is I want to create another rule set. I want to create another rule set that is h3. Okay, I want to create the rule set on h3, and I want to change the background color. I want to change the background color of the h3 tag to, let's say, yellow. I want to change the background color of the h3 tag to yellow right over here. So again, the CSS property, the new rule set as well, I'm putting it up. All the CSS code is going inside the style. Okay, all the CSS code is going inside the style itself. All the CSS code is going inside the style tag itself. You're having two rule sets right over here, the h3 tag and the h1 tag. The h1 tag has the selector as h1 because you want to select the h1 itself to apply the changes to, and then you want to change the color of the text to blue. Okay, the next is the h3 tag, and you want to change the background color of the h3 tag to yellow right over here. So background hyphen color to yellow. So if I'm saving this, going back to my website, reloading the page, as you're able to see, the background color of the h3 tag is changed to yellow right over here. What if I want to change the background color of the h1 tag to, let's say, green? Okay, I want to change the background color of the h1 tag to green. So I just need to have another declaration. I just need to have another declaration inside the h1 rule set that basically says that background color. I just need to change background color to green right over here. So green, yellow, let's check that. Okay, that would be right, light green itself. As you're able to see, we are having color that changes the text. Okay, we are having background color that changes the background color of the h1 tag itself. So now I'm having two declarations inside the same rule set. I'm having two declarations inside the same rule set. So if I'm saving this, going back to my website, reloading the page, as you're able to see, we are having the h1 tag as you are having it in blue, and then you are also having the light green color in the background. You are having light green color in the background as well. Now this is called as internal CSS. So you have looked at inline CSS, you have looked at internal CSS, and both of this CSS is something that is always told you guys not to do it, because it is of only one reason at itself. Okay, usually you will be having a very huge HTML file. Okay, usually you will be having a very large HTML file at the end of the day. Okay, and you cannot afford to keep all your CSS code, that is 10,000 lines of CSS code as well as 3,000 lines of HTML code inside the same file. It becomes very tedious for you to debug any type of problem that you're having, to solve any kind of problem that you're facing inside your code. So it's always a very good practice to use an external CSS. Okay, that is having CSS in its own, having CSS in its very own file. Okay, having CSS in its very own file. Guys, please be patient. I will be answering everything properly. Don't worry about it. Okay. So I'm able to see that you are able to have various questions. We will be answering that. We have just started out with CSS, guys. Don't rush into things. Learn from the utmost basic. I know you have a lot of questions. That's great, but most of them I will be answering them while teaching. We still have 2 days remaining to learn CSS. Okay, so please, Ritvik, please, Sanjay, wait. Okay, and listen to what I have to say right now. Okay. Great. So now instead of using an internal CSS file, we will be creating our very own CSS file. So we'll go to files, we'll create a new file, we'll call it as style.css, and this will be our CSS file. Currently we are using CSS version 3, that is CSS 3. So we are going to put all our CSS code inside our style.css. We'll be putting all our CSS code inside of style.css. So what you have to do is you have to go to index.html. I will just remove all the CSS code from right over here. We don't need the style as well. We'll put all that code inside our style.css file, as you're able to see. So this is our CSS file that contains our CSS, and this is our HTML file that does not contain any CSS as of this particular moment. But when I'm saving this, I've created my CSS file that you're able to see right over here. All the CSS code is now going into our CSS file itself. We are having our index.html file as well. Now when I'm going to my website, reloading the page, as you're able to see, nothing is happening. All the CSS attributes have gone. It's just the plain old HTML itself. Why is that the case? Because you haven't told HTML where that CSS file is. Are you able to see any reference to CSS file on the screen, guys? Are you able to see any reference to the CSS file on our screen? Please do let me know. Are you able to see any kind of reference to our CSS file, guys? Please do let me know. Are you able to see any reference to our CSS file, guys? Please let me know. Exactly, you are not able to see any reference. So if you're not telling HTML where the CSS file is, how is it going to identify that? So again, you need to go inside of head. Okay, because again, this is a metadata. You want to use the link attribute. Okay, you want to use the link attribute right over here. Okay, what is the relationship between the two files? There are two attributes associated with the link. So you are basically creating a link between your HTML and your CSS file. You want to create a link between your HTML and your CSS file. So for that, you are using the link tag. There are two attributes associated with it, relationship and the href. Href, you already know, that is the reference to that particular file, that is style.css, and rel basically means relationship. What is the current relationship between the current file, that is your HTML file, and the CSS file? So the CSS file is your style sheet. Okay, the relationship is that the style.css is your style sheet. Okay, it's your style sheet. Okay, so that is, it provides you the style for this particular HTML file. So that is the relationship between the two files. Okay, so this is how you link the CSS to your HTML file. This is how you link the CSS to your HTML file. If you go back to your website, reload the page, as you're able to see, all the CSS properties are now being applied to your website. All the CSS properties are now being applied to your website right over here. Okay, so This is basically the three ways in which you can inculcate, you can put the CSS inside of your H1, inside of your HTML file. Okay, what are the three ways in which you are able to put up the CSS inside your HTML file, guys? Please do let me know what are the three different properties, three different ways in which we can put up the CSS inside our HTML file, guys. Please let me know, guys. Can somebody let me know what are the three ways? Please do let me know, guys. Can somebody let me know what are the three different ways to change, to put CSS inside our HTML file, guys? Exactly, internal, okay, external, and inline. So inline was the first one that we saw. Then we saw the internal CSS, and at the end we saw the external CSS. Okay, that's amazing. So now let us continue from the PPT. Let's start learning CSS. Okay, the first question that we have is we want to change the h1 element to green. Okay, we want to change the text of the h1 element to green. Let's go back to our website. Okay, let's just keep the h1 element for right now. And if you want to change the h1 element, the text from black to green, what you want to do is you don't need h3 right over here. You just don't need even the background color. You just need color, and you need to change it to green. Okay, you need to change it to green. So you are only having one rule set right over here, only on the h1 element, and you are changing it to green. So if I'm reading this particular line of code again, you are able to see that right now we have changed the black color to green, as simple as possible. Okay, this is something that we have already seen. Okay, the next thing that we have is, okay, so what happens, okay, what will happen if we are having, so let us try to understand this. What happens if we are having multiple h1 elements on our screen? 2021, let's take up 2022 as well. 2020, let's save this. So what do you guys think will happen? What do you guys think will happen if I'm running this particular line of code? I've changed the HTML to guys, please do block this particular person, report him. Okay, so as you're able to see, we are having your h1, three h1 tags on our screen, and we are having the style.css right over here. That is, h1 is basically green. So what do you think will happen, guys? What do you think will happen? Will all of them get changed? Will the only first one will get changed? What will happen, guys? Okay, so yes, it will apply to every single h1 element. Why is that the case? Because here the selector is h1. Here the selector is h1, and it is being applied to every single h1 that will be present on this particular HTML page. On this HTML page, every single h1 tag, okay, every single h1 tag will get changed to green color. If you are going to your website, reloading the page, as you're able to see, every single h1 tag will get changed to green color. Now sometimes we don't want that. Sometimes we want to make sure that only a particular h1 tag is of green color, or only a particular type of h1 tag is of green color. Okay, sometimes we want to do that. So how can that be made possible? Okay, How can that be made possible? Let's try to understand that. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to come right over here, okay, and we want to learn about two more things, that is your class and your ID. Let's try to understand class and ID via using some examples first of all. Okay, so whenever you are using any just think about a particular school. Okay, just think about a particular school as of this particular moment. Every single student is called as a student. Every student who is present in that particular school will be called as a student itself. Am I right? So every student in that particular school is called as a student. Now, if you're saying, okay, all the students are red in color. Okay, so every single student will be red in color. Now, students can be classified, can be categorized and grouped together as well. So these students are grouped together in classes. Each class can contain multiple students. You are having a class 4A. Okay, you are having a class 4A and it has 30 students inside of it. It has 30 students that are present inside of it. Okay, so multiple students can have the same class and you can denote all these students by using their class name itself, that okay, all students of class 4A should have their color as blue. Okay, should have their color as blue. Okay, similarly, the second thing that you know about is ID. Every single student in the school, every individual student will have its very own ID. Every student in the entire school will have its very own ID associated with them. And you can identify each of these students using their very own ID. Okay, you can identify each of these students using their very own ID or their roll number. Okay, roll numbers are unique, IDs are unique to that particular student itself. Are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know, guys. Are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know, guys. Are you able to understand this concept of school and classes and IDs? Now, if I'm saying that, okay, the student with ID 4 should change his particular clothes to a color, let's say green. Okay, you want to change. So this is cool, man. This is not even like why I'm explaining this. Okay, I need to select a particular student having an ID of 4. I'm telling him to change his clothes to green right over there. So only that student with the roll number 4 will be changing his clothes to green at the end of the day. Okay, the same concept goes in your CSS as well. So what happens in CSS is you're having various tags. Okay, so the h1 tag, okay, one h1 tag right over here, one h1 tag right over here, one h1 tag right over here. Okay, now you have decided that the first h1 tag should be red in color. Okay, and then after every alternate tags, okay, so this should be, so this is an let's say this is an odd tag, so this will be green in color. This is an even tag, that will be blue in color. If you're having any other h1 tag right over here, you want it to be again green in color, again, and another h1 tag that you want it to be let's say blue in color. Okay, so green, okay, green, green, blue, blue, and red right over here. This is what you want to create. Now what you can do is you can assign a class, okay, to these particular items. Okay, so let's say that we are assigning this particular h1 tag as a class of odd. Okay, the class is odd right over here. Again, every odd tag should be green in color. So let us assign this as well as a class of odd. Okay, let's assign it as a class of odd as well. This, let us assign it as a class of even. This, let us assign it as a class of even. So now every even tag, okay, every tag, every h1 tag that is a class of even will be blue in color, and every tag, h1 tag that is a class of odd will be green in color right over here. Okay, so let's try to understand the class and the class, right, first of all. Okay, let's try to understand class. So what you do is you go back to your code. Okay, now you are writing, so let us put up some more h1 tags. Let's increase the number of h1 tags right over here. Again, let's change the dates to 19, 18, 17. Okay, so you are having various different h1 tags. Now what I'm going to do is I will just put up a class name. So class as, let's say we want to put up the class as even odd, because that is the first class. So let us take it up as odd. Then the next one we want to take it up as class as equals to even. Okay, next we want to take up the class as again odd, because this is again odd. Okay, so now multiple h1 elements can have the same class. Okay, so one class can contain various students, class can contain multiple students. Okay, the same thing that I'm doing right over here as well. So class, this would be even. Okay, then again I'm having the class of this particular tag as odd, and then even. Okay, so now, sorry, class as even. Okay, so right now I've given it each of these students. Just think about these h1 tags as students themselves. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is for each of these students I'm giving them a class. Okay, for each of these students I'm giving them a class. The class is odd, the class is even. Okay, so now there are two classes, that is odd and even, and they contain some h1 elements. They contain some h1 elements right over here. So what you want to do up till this particular point of time is that you want to create these. So you want to tell, okay, now the selector, instead of having the selector in the h1 as the h1 element, okay, right now if I'm saving this, going back to my screen, reloading the page, everything will still be green. All the tags will still be green. So what you want to do is you want to select, instead of selecting all the h1 tags, you just want to select the class. Okay, you want to select the class. Okay, you don't want to select the h1 tag, you just want to select the class itself. So what you want to do is you want to look at the code for that. To select a particular class, okay, you want to select a particular class, whatever the name of that particular class is, and before that you want to put up a dot. Okay, before that you want to put up a full stop or a dot. This is how you select a particular class. Here you are having two class names. Okay, so you will be selecting dot odd. Okay, that is how you select a particular class. You are having the class name as odd, and dot even, that is the second class name that you are having, and you want to change the color, let's say to green, and for even you want to change it to, let's say, blue. So color blue right over here. So what you're doing is, instead of selecting the h1 element, okay, instead of selecting the h1 element, to select the h1 element you were just writing h1 and then just parenthesis and then the color and everything. Now you are selecting the class name. You are selecting the class name. Now you are having two classes, as you're able to see, just odd and just even. You are having two class names, that is odd and just even. Now to select a class name, you want to use dot and then the class name. You want to use dot and then the class name. This is how you select a particular item itself. Now you go on your website, reload the page. As you're able to see, the odd classes are basically green in color and the even classes are basically blue in color. Okay, are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know. Are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know. Yeah, you can use anything. You are basically naming it. You can name it as gibberish as well. You can name it as, let's say right over here, if I'm naming this particular class as blah blah blah. Okay, it's totally up to you. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, you need to make a class name that makes sense as well, but you can name it as anything. Okay, you can name it as anything. Right over here I'm changing the class name to some gibberish, as you're able to see right over here. If I'm saving this, going back to my style.css, changing the name from right over there as well, changing the name from right over here, saving this. Now my website will still work the exact same way. So the choice of the CSS name is up to you, but think about what name you should put it up right over there. Okay, that is the main goal. Okay, Great. Now, but what if I want to select a particular like h1 tag? If I want to select the third h1 tag and convert it to just this, only this h1 tag on the entire website, there will never be any other tag that will be red in color. There will be never ever any tag that would be red in color. Everything would be in some other color, but this is the only tag, the only thing on the entire website that I want to change to red in color. Okay, because this is the only h1 tag that I want to change to red in color. So for that you will be using an id. For that you will be using an id. Okay, so what you will be doing is, instead of writing class, okay, yes, you can use class for that as well, you can use class, but this is something unique. Okay, this is something unique. You don't want to do it again. You don't want to do it again. This is unique in nature. You want to change just this third h1 element to red in color. Okay, so what you'll do is, instead of using class, okay, you will be using id. The id, I am putting it up right now as, let's say, only. You can put up the id name as anything. So I'm putting up the id as just like only. Now, if you want to select id, so we have learned about selecting a particular h1 tag. We have learned about selecting a particular class that is using a dot. For selecting an id, you use hash. Okay, for selecting an id, you use hash right over here. So what you want to do is, you want to go back right over here and you want to put up the hash. Okay, so in CSS, you want to select hash only. That is the name of the id, and you want to change the color to red. Okay, not recumbers, red. Right over here, I'm changing the color to red right over here. I'm going back to my website, reloading the page, as you're able to see, only the third tag is red in color. Now, the point is ID. Why I told you guys that you have to use ID right over here and not class is that you can have multiple h1 tags with the same class. You can have multiple h1 tags with the same class. But once you have used an ID, okay, so for example, you have created this ID only, right over here. You can use only once on the entire website. You cannot have another h1 tag. You cannot have another h1 tag with ID is equals to only. You cannot have another h1 tag with an id is equals to only. You cannot do that. Okay, you will have to create a new id and use that. Okay, you will have to create a new id and use that. That is the reason why I told you guys that if you want to have just one particular h1 tag that you want to change it to red, only in that particular case you will be using an id. Only in that particular case you will be using an id. Okay, are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know. You guys able to understand the difference between a class and an ID? Two students cannot have the same roll number. Okay, ID is basically unique to a particular person. Okay, similarly, ID is basically unique to a particular tag as well. Similarly, class, you can have multiple tags with the same class. You can have multiple tags with the same class. Are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know, guys. Great. Now, the second thing that you need to understand is the precedence of everything. Okay, you need to understand the precedence of everything. Now, you are having an h1 tag. You're having multiple h1 tags. Every tag is having a class, let's say, of odd. This particular tag is a class of odd, and an ID as well of only. Okay, an ID as well of only. Now, odd basically means, let me just check what odd means. Odd means green color. Okay, so odd means green color. Okay, you are having the ID that you are having as the red color. Okay, and similarly you are having the, let's say, h1 tag that basically gives you the yellow color. Okay, the h1 tag gives you the yellow color. So inside your CSS, basically you are having the code h1. Okay, and then you are having color as yellow. Okay, then you are having the dot odd. Okay, that is the class. Then you are having the color as green. Okay, and then you are having the ID. Okay, at last you are having the ID, and the ID you are having the color as red. Okay, so what will be the color of this particular h1 tag? What will be the color of this particular h1 tag, guys? Can somebody let me know? What do you think will be the color of this particular h1 tag? Can somebody let me know? Can you guys think about it? What particular color would be of the h1 tag? Now the h1 tag, we are having in the code, we are having an h1 tag as well. Okay, we are having an h1 tag that is basically changing the color to yellow. We are having the class that is odd, that is getting the color changed to green, and then we are having the id as well, that is getting color the change to red. What will have the highest, what will be the like color of the h1 tag? Can somebody think about it? So many of you are either saying the group is basically divided between red and yellow. So you are basically thinking that, okay, it might be either red or it might be either yellow at the end of the day. Okay, so now let me tell you the answer. Okay, well, let me tell you the answer. The answer is red. Why is that the case? Again, think of it as practicality. Okay, in your daily life, you're going to a school. Now, the entire school has a common dress uniform. Okay, the entire school has a common dress uniform. Okay, you are having a uniform. So that is the H1 tag. All the people will have a yellow colored uniform itself. All the people in the school will have a yellow uniform. Okay. Now when you are having that, okay, a particular class, I'm telling to a particular class that this particular class should have the color of green uniform. The color of this particular class should be of green uniform. So now the entire school is yellow in color. The entire school is yellow in color. Now I'm selecting a particular group of students and telling them that, okay, this particular group of students should have green color uniform itself. And from that, I'm selecting a particular student and telling that your particular dress should be red in color. So although the rest of the entire school is having yellow color, this particular class is having green color, but this student will have red color itself. This is the order of precedence of these h1 tag, the class and the id. So if you are putting id anywhere, then that id will have the greatest precedence, have the most weightage at the end of the day. Are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know. Again, if you're not able to understand it, just think about a school. Just think about a school and you will be able to understand it. Okay, you will be able to understand it very easily. Okay, guys, do let me know. Are you able to understand? Please let me know. Are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know, guys. As soon as I'm coming here, this particular person is again coming. Are you guys able to understand this? Please let me know, guys. Great, amazing, guys, amazing. You guys are so smart. Great. Okay, so this is the basic concept of class and IDs. Okay, this is the basic concept of class and IDs. Now, usually it's a good practice never to use ID. If you want to use it, use a class itself. You use IDs, like you cannot predict that, okay, on the entire website I will be using this only for once. Okay, this particular attribute I will be using only for once. That is something that is rarely possible, very rarely possible. You will be using the same style somewhere else as well. Okay, so that is the reason why I will always suggest you guys to use class. Okay, always use class. Don't use h1 tag directly. Don't apply your styles to the entire h1 tag. Never use directly IDs itself. Always try to use classes. Okay, always try to use classes. Okay, are you guys able to understand? Please let me know. Are you guys able to understand? Please let me know, guys. Great. Let's move on further from here. Okay. So length is a particular topic that we'll do yesterday itself. Tomorrow, next day, today's session will keep it a bit short. okay, so that we are able to understand everything and nothing goes over our head. I don't want to overburden you with a new topic today itself. Okay, so today's session will be short. I've already showed the attendance link, guys. So for those who have seen it, you guys might remember where the attendance link is. You can go back, watch it again, okay, do everything that you want to do. Don't worry about it. Okay, today's session I'm keeping it a bit short. I don't want to overburden you with a new concept directly. Now that you're familiar, okay, now that you're familiar with CSS, now that you know the precedence of CSS, you know important topics like selectors, normal tag selectors, normal CSS class selectors, as well as IDs, you will be able to understand everything. From tomorrow, we are going to look at some of the CSS properties, such as length, how we measure length in computer science, okay, and web development, what are absolute length, relative length. I will try to understand each of them, so it will be an amazing session moving further. We'll look at some of the changes as well, styling a font, styling an image. So we'll look at how to resize an image and all those kind of stuff. So tomorrow it will be a long class, okay, don't worry about it. Whatever I've taught to you guys, please try to recap it as much as possible. Try to research about it as much as possible. You guys will be able to understand. If you guys have any questions that what will happen if I do this, what will happen if I do that, you have code sandbox, okay, just open it up, type your code, check it, okay, this is happening with that code. You will be able to understand it. Again, attendance link for today has already been shared, guys. For those who are late in today's class, who joined us late, you will not be able to understand where the attendance link is. Guys, this is your fault. I cannot do anything about that. I've already told you guys, you have to be on time for the classes. You have to be on time. Again, the attendance link has been showed to you guys, okay. I can even show it to you guys that people have started filling the attendance link up as well. So the proof that I've already showed to you the attendance link, let me just show it to that as well. So let me just pause my screen itself, go back to website. So as you are able to see, I've already shared the attendance link, guys. Okay, as you're able to see, 864 people have already filled up the attendance link. So those who are late, I'm not going to share the attendance link. Anybody caught sharing the attendance link will be banned throughout the entire program. He will not be able to get the certificates to the person that he has shared the attendance link. That particular person will also not be able to get the attendance link. So the certificates. So please do remember that. Don't share the attendance link. Again, as you are able to see right over here, the link is working absolutely fine. 900 students have already filled up the attendance link. So there's no issues right over there. Okay. So those who are late, again, you have to watch the entire session. You have to fill up the attendance link for getting the certificates. Okay. So thank you so much, guys. We'll end the session right over here. Again, the attendance link has already been shared. People have started filling it up as well. Thank you so much, guys. We'll meet tomorrow as well. Okay. So thank you so much, guys. We'll meet at 6 o'clock. Thank you so much.